Hello once again, Taurus. Happy New Year. It's January 2016 and Dadhichi Toth is my name from astrology.com.au with your January forecast. And you know, it's an interesting month, an interesting one to kick the year off with a new moon in your ninth house. That new moon means the moon is just commencing its bright half cycle near the sun, which rules your domestic circumstances, ninth house with Pluto and Mercury as well. So there's probably a lot tied in with your family life, your domestic situation, a new approach perhaps to how you're dealing with these issues, not just the relationship issues that may be, I guess, a little intense now because Pluto has a lot to do with the intensity and the transformative aspects of nature, things, events, people that cause you to grow. It's not always easy. Pluto's a bit like an axe murderer, cutting you in half to chop you up and extract all the really, really good bits of you. It's like that conflagration of fire that burns down everything so that a few little seeds can resprout. So some pretty ugly images. It's sort of like Kali, the goddess of time and death. But ultimately for your benefit. you think so? You ask? Well, yes. And you've also got Mercury there. So you need to think through these things. And you'll have to really think through these things again, because we do see there's a very powerful right angle to Mars, which moves into your 7th house on January 4th. 7th house is your relationship area. But it is in that 6th house of work. So Mercury has been, your workplace environment, Mercury has been in the right angle to that, which has challenged your thinking, your communications, and maybe even your health to some extent. Mars is not exactly your friendliest planet. It can cause dyspeptic problems, digestive disorders, injuries in the workplace, disputes with co-workers, and especially that last one being related to the communicative aspects of your horoscope. It rules your 2nd house of finances. It also rules let's have a look there. It rules the 10th house itself. Sorry, my apologies. I'm losing track of it. All that Kali energy sort of throwing me out. It rules your 2nd house of finance and your 5th house of love affairs and relationships and creativity. So finally got it right that time. That does move into your 10th house on the 2nd, but then quickly moves retrograde on the 6th. So just as you thought you were moving out of this whole ethical, sort of confusing and maybe even hot-headed cycle, Mercury will move back into that ninth house, then move back into that conjunction with Pluto. And we do have a new moon there on the 10th in that same area. So there's a real focus on this 9th house. Travels, legal matters. In some systems of astrology, they say the 9th house is the father. Some say not. Western astrologers tend to prefer the 10th house. But we do see that Mercury is going to move through that area when it finally completes its retrogression. It moves stationary direct later in the month on the 26th, though it may not actually do that till early next month for you. But at least you're going to have an opportunity here to really rethink those aspects of your higher education, your ethics, your morals, the way you communicate to your family members. Journeys should be very high up on the agenda, and new opportunities emerge as a result of that new moon in this particular area of the zodiac. Now that Mars moving into your 7th house is also very pertinent. It rules the 7th sign for Taurus, which is your marriage, your business partnerships, and the general public. And it is very, very powerful in the foreground, bringing with it a dose of intense energy and some very nice trine or 120 degree aspects after the 18th. that trine aspect to Neptune, which is your 11th house ruler. And interestingly, Neptune is indeed in that part of the zodiac right now. So your idealism continues. It's going to continue for a while longer with the sort of people that you associate with. Be careful not to idealize those people too much. The trine aspect is a fortifying one. It's an easy one. It shows a dynamic sort of response to your friends. There could be some very unusual people coming into your life, spiritual people that may help you and give you some insights, maybe even into your relationships that may have bogged down. Be careful though, Mars is rather combative, and we've seen that square aspect that I've mentioned earlier in your reading. We must also note that the full moon, which takes place on the 24th in the sign of Leo, is again the fourth sector for you, Taurus, and that has to do with your family life. So big bright moon there is usually very emotional. It is clearly associated also with your communications, ruling your third house of Cancer. Has to do with siblings. Some of you may be reconnecting, and there could in fact be a much better relationship in that context. But let's take a look also at the fact that with that new moon in the sign of Leo and Mars moving into the sign of Scorpio, or through the sign of Scorpio, that is again what we call a right angle. So that full moon is challenged by the right angle, and of course you are going to have that opposition from Mercury. So yes, there's opportunities for building bridges there, maybe rebuilding bridges that have been demolished in the past. And that ninth house, by the way, which we talked about right at the outset of your reading, has a considerable influence on your past karma, both in this life and in your previous life. But having that ruler of the third house, which is opposite all of these powerful conjunctions in the ninth house, moving through your fourth house, some of those bridges may require carrying a lot of big boulders to the building site, if I could put it that way. So you need to be very careful. Don't be over emotional. The full moon there can present some problems. Hindu astrologers are of the opinion that the moon, which rules the mother, transiting in this fourth house is not particularly a good omen for one's mother or the matriarchal individuals within your family structure. Take note of that. Later in the month we see some much better aspects, particularly from your ruling planet Venus. We see there, well, first it's a bit dicey. You've got a conjunction in the 8th house of sexuality on the 9th. That slows things down, makes you a little bit more serious about your relationships. It's not a good position for your ruling planet, but at least on the 13th, the trine to Uranus is much, much better. 12th house, giving you the insight you need spiritually to work through some of those issues, using some novel perceptions, novel communication techniques. Also, just around the same time, 14th and 15th, the trine aspect of the Sun, that fourth ruler to Jupiter in the 5th house, gives you the creative opportunity you need. And there could be a catalyst there from one of your children if you're a parent, or some lover. Someone's able to throw some light on this to give you the, I guess, the switch to pull that short circuit on any impending problems. The conjunction of the Sun with Mercury is also very clever. It allows you to use some spiritual and intuitive techniques to break the back of some of those stubborn problems of the past, and even some of your past karma, which has to do with past life stuff. If you believe that stuff, I'm going to leave that open to your discretion. But certainly the genetic component of your current life, if I could put it that way, for those of you skeptics who are non-believers, let's just keep it within the confines of what you may believe. The trine aspect of Mercury to the 5th house Jupiter is excellent for communication and really stimulating your thinking processes. It's also an ideal one for connecting with love affairs, new love affairs, with North Node, what we call Rahu there in the 5th house as well, in very, very close conjunction to Jupiter. In Virgo, that also shows you're quite interested in people who are not particularly from your culture. They're the fringe dwellers of society. You might be attracted to something a little bit unusual at this time. The trine aspects there are followed, or rather on the same date, the 18th, with that square aspect of Venus, your ruler, to Jupiter, indicating you may be pushing things a little bit hard, time to slow down a little bit. That may be difficult because you are so energized by the Mars trine aspect to Neptune that takes place. Then that's going to build up to a crescendo with the transit of Sun to your career sector on the 21st, moving through your 10th house for the next 4 weeks. That's very powerful and usually ensures some sort of elevation to a new position if you're looking for work, either within the job that the position that you're working, the job, the current employment, or if you're looking to venture forth into something new. Unusual communications, unexpected sort of letters, or something that could throw you into a tailspin could occur leading up to the 21st around that same date. And that could really change things, mix things up. So there is a possibility for some of you, especially with that conjunction to Pluto, still in its retrograde motion on the 22nd, leading up to that date will be quite powerful. Venus, fortunately, moves into your 9th house, offering you some travel. It moves out of that rather dark 8th house area where you've got to deal with all those murky emotions into a little bit more optimism after that date, the 24th. And to top it off, we have a nice forward movement of that planet Mercury, your second ruler, finance planet, by the way, which could ensure some additional income for you at the end of the month. Look forward to your company next month. Don't forget, visit me at, I think we've got the URL there, astrology.com.au. Lots of free stuff there. Readings with me and some of my associates if you're looking for a more detailed analysis that's more particularly focused on your specific birth date, birth time and locality. Look forward to your company next month. Good luck. Take care now, Taurus. Bye.